Hey everyone, it's patch 3.23 Affliction, and today I want to talk about how to swap your Ancient Skull in your Arakaali build for a normal +2 minion helmet and to add in the Spectre package into our build. With the release of Affliction, we've gotten quite a lot of new corpses from the lead mechanic, and some of these corpses have given us some really powerful new utility specters. Typically in Arakaali, we've never really fit in utility specters because most of them kind of sucked and they really weren't going to beat Ancient Skull, meaning they just never really worth considering for this build. With these new utility specters, they're so unbelievably strong that it's going to be worth it to drop Ancient Skull and to run these in place of them. They're going to give you substantially more tankiness, and they're going to make you do a substantial more damage, and they're going to be way better than Ancient Skull ever was. The first thing I want to talk about is the helmet itself, Ancient Skull. Realistically, it's never been as good as you thought it might be. If you put it in Path of Building, it says it does about 30% of your damage, and that's because it's assuming that every single minion is hearing the whispers at the same time. And the whispers makes them do 50% increased damage and have 50% increased attack speed, which in this build is an incredibly large amount of extra stats. As I mentioned, each minion has to crit individually to hear the whispers for 5 seconds, meaning realistically you only have 4 to 5 spiders hearing the whispers at any one time, as we're not really stacking any crit chance. That means the helmet's only really 25% as good as it shows in Path of Building, only offering you somewhere around a 5 to 10% DPS increase. Now that we have these new specters, that really isn't that much anymore, and we are losing on an incredible amount of additional tankiness in our build that these new support specters can actually offer us. So what I want to get into is how to actually swap from your Ancient Skull into these specters. So the first thing I want to mention are going to be the specters that I've personally been using. This is what I would recommend for everyone to use as well, as these are the strongest 4 that we can fit. And while there are other good specters available for us, unfortunately, they're just a little bit too squishy and they're just not realistic to keep alive in this build. So I'm not going to include them in here. Personally, what I've been running for a day now has been a perfect Turtle, a perfect Warlord, a perfect Forest Warrior, and Arena Master. All those names will be in the description below so you don't have to remember all of them. But these are going to be the 4 specters I recommend everyone using, as they are the best fits for this build and they give you the best total set of extra stats. If you want to quickly talk about what they do, the Turtle is going to give you level 20 determination while also giving you 5% physical damage reduction. The Warlord is going to spam Enduring Cry, and it's going to share the charges with you and all of your minions, meaning that you have an additional 12% all res and 12% physical damage reduction. The Forest Warrior is going to give you and all of your Arakaali minions Onslaught, which is just another 20% increased attack speed, as well as giving you Culling Strike, meaning everything under 10% health just immediately dies. And lastly, the Arena Master is going to hit its shield, giving you a temporary buff that is effectively Onslaught, but it isn't Onslaught, which means it stacks with Onslaught. These 4 together effectively give you a lot of extra tankiness, an extra aura, a lot of extra regen, and as much attack speed as Ancient Skull would actually give you. So why don't we get into how you would actually do the swap? So obviously first, you're going to have to drop your Ancient Skull. And instead of Ancient Skull, we're going to be opting to run a helmet with plus all minion skill gems. This can be whatever helmet you can find. On a low budget, all you really should look for on this helmet is just +2 all minion skill gems. And if you have a little bit more money, you can look for a helmet with life on it. Obviously, we would want this to be a bone helmet eventually, but currently at the start of the league, bone helmets with +2 minion skill gems and life are either prohibitively expensive or don't exist. So realistically, any sort of helmet with +2 all minion skill gems works. You cannot run +1 minion skill gems. It has to be +2, as we need to reach a breakpoint on our summon specters to hit level 25. Now, you can put whatever gems you previously had in your Ancient Skull back in here, as nothing needs to be fit in any specific place. One thing that you'd want to keep in mind for later is that you're going to eventually want to get a bone helmet with socketed minions are supported by level 20 minion life. This means we're going to effectively be able to make a 5 link in our helmet, and minion life is going to be an incredibly powerful stat, meaning we can make our specters a little bit tankier, as all we really need to do is make sure these things never die. But to start with, just find yourself a +2 helmet. Other than that, the only other thing you would really need to be able to swap like this is the actual 4 link itself. So for me, I have it in my boots, but it really doesn't matter where you actually put this. All it's going to be is going to be a level 21 race specter. This has to be a level 21 race specter, as we need to reach level 25, which gives us a breakpoint of additional raised specter, a elemental army, and with this you're going to really want to make sure you get quality, as the quality is incredibly powerful, giving you 2% all maximum elemental resistances for your minions, meaning they're going to be even tankier, a minion life, as we just need to make sure they don't die, and a level 3 in power. The level 3 in power, in addition with the +2 minion skill gems from the helmet, and the level 21 of the specter itself gives you 25, which gives us an additional specter. The only other thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to anoint your amulet Violet with Death Attunement. This is a node at the top of the Witch Tree that costs a silver, crimson, and a clear, and it's going to give you 1 maximum additional Spectre, which is going to be substantially better than any other anoint you previously had. With all this put together, you should be able to have 4 Spectres, 1 from Death Attunement and 3 from Raise Spectre for it being level 25. Once you have all this, you are ready to summon these Spectres and be on your merry way with being substantially tankier and doing more damage. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how you're going to actually get your hands on these Spectres. It's going to be very simple. All you have to do is just go to trade and search for them. These will simply just be the same names as the Spectres themselves. So we have Perfect Warlord, Perfect Forest Warrior, and Perfect Guardian Turtle. Now, when you buy these from people, you are going to get the corpse itself as an item. Make sure you do not accidentally right-click this until you are ready to summon it, as it is a one-time use. This doesn't really matter for the Turtle and the First Forest Warrior, as they're both very cheap, but in the case of the Perfect Warlord, it is currently 2 divines, so you really want to make sure you do not accidentally lose it before you're ready to summon it. All you have to do once you are ready to actually summon it, is just simply right-click the corpse in your inventory, and then the corpses will simply just drop on the ground and you'll be ready to summon them. Now, one thing I want to mention here is if you ever take off your Spectre gem, just like I did, the corpses will be unsummoned and you will have to resummon them. If you were to leave your hideout, for example, while this happens and your hideout ends up resetting, which happens if you aren't in your hideout for a while, these corpses will go away and you will lose them. So make sure if you remove your gem and if you have to do any changes to your gear, that you are ready to pick them up again, and you have to make sure you do not accidentally flesh offering them. If you flesh offering them and delete the corpses, you'll have to buy completely new ones. But assuming you don't do that, you will never lose them, as these Spectres are super tanky. When you're ready to summon them and you put them on the ground, all you're gonna have to do is just put Raise Spectre on your bars, hold down A by default, and you're gonna kind of try to hover at their feet. Their hitboxes are a little bit weird, but you'll see that they'll have a red border around them. And then while holding down A and hovering over the corpse, you're simply just going to press your Raise Spectre skill, and it's going to raise the corpses as a minion. You're going to want to do this for all 3 of the corpses that you summoned. And then lastly, for the Arena Master, the way you're going to be able to get the Arena Master is by either going to global chat 6666, that is 4 6s, or coming into my global chat 512 and asking if anyone has an Arena Master. Arena Masters are not a corpse that came with Affliction, meaning they are part of a Desecrate pool normally, and you just have them be shared between other people by simply going to their hideout while they have an Arena Master and pressing Desecrate for it to be added into your Desecrate pool, and you just simply summon it from the Desecrate. Now, one final thing that I want to mention about swapping over to these is some things that you might want to consider changing your passive tree. So for example, for me, I ended up picking Indomitable Army. This makes it so bleeds don't actually do extra damage to them, making them effectively immune to Corrupted Blood, which is going to be really important, as Corrupted Blood could potentially kill your Spectres. But after running with these for basically a full day, my Spectres have never really gone below 95% life, meaning you don't really need this, but as a personal safety precaution, I really like pathing over to Indomitable Army. The other thing to mention is over here by Spiritual Command. What I'd really recommend is to at least spend 2 points to pick up Sacrifice and to pick up a minion Defensive Mastery for +8 to all maximum elemental resistances. This is a really big deal, and it's going to make them substantially more tankier than before. If you don't want to path all the way to Indomitable Army, at least path your way to Sacrifice and pick up the Mastery. Outside of that, there's literally no other changes that you need to make to be able to fit them in, and they're basically just plug and play, and they're an incredibly strong addition to your build. You don't need to be a Necromancer to do this. You can do this as an Occultist, and both versions of this build are completely fine to run these Spectres, and I would highly recommend that you completely stop what you're doing and completely stop other upgrades in your build and immediately focus on getting these Spectres in, because they give you so much effective damage and tankiness that they are basically unreplaceable. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are going to be the other changes that you're going to be able to make as soon as you run them. Because the Turtle is going to give us Determination for free, and this is just as good as level 20 Determination, that means we don't actually need to run a Determination. Personally, what I've opted for is to run a Malevolence with that extra mana that I have, but another good option is to instead run a Grace, which would make you unbelievably tanky. It'll make it so you basically never really get hit that much, and the only thing that will ever actually kill you are going to be straight up one-shots. Malevolence is also going to be a really good option instead if you just want more damage and if you feel like your clear isn't good enough, as Malevolence is about a 15% DPS increase in your build, making it really, really strong to add in. Lastly, because we don't have to run Ancient Skull anymore, and because we can run other minions, we also want to fit in a Carrying Golem, as this will give us a lot of extra physical damage for our Arakaali spiders, which is an amazing stat because it's going to scale our poison substantially harder, and we can link a Feeding Frenzy to the Golem to give us a permanent Feeding Frenzy, which is 10% more damage, 10% increased movement speed, and 10% attack speed. One thing to mention about this is that the Carrying Golem is going to die every now and then. It is not going to be tanky enough, so you might have to resummon it here and there, but if the resummoning aspect of the Carrying Golem is annoying for you, you can just simply opt to not also add in a Carrying Golem as well. Overall, if you look at the total value of all these Spectres, we're getting a free Onslaught, a free Culling Strike, a free vitality, a free determination, and free endurance charges permanently in our build. Not only that, but we get an additional aura spot, meaning we could run Skitterbots, Malevolence, or Grace, making these substantially stronger than Ancient Skull ever would be on its own. Not only are we doing substantially more damage because Ancient Skull is basically fake news in terms of damage it gives you, we're also substantially tankier and we have an overall stronger build because of it. That's all I really have to say in this video. If you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to answer them as soon as I can. I also stream on Twitch every single day. Feel free to just come by there and ask me your questions personally, or if you just want to join us and hang out, I'll be more than happy to see you there. Outside of that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you cuties in the next video.